We'll take some questions now for any of the panelists. And we have a microphone in the back. We have a question here, Marguerite.
This San Francisco case brings up one set of facts that seems to have been ignored in much of the analysis of the newspapers, and that is the fact that the perpetrator had been deported 5 times, which demonstrates the fact that the system of ICE apprehension and deportation has been working to a certain extent in order to get that person deported 5 times. And the other side of that issue is the fact that he has come back after 5 deportations, which underscores the fact that our system of controlling against illegal immigration coming into the country obviously is inadequate. And I wondered if you maybe would, one of you would want to comment on that set of circumstances that has not really been commented very much on in the news.
Well, I think, one example is why we need to secure our borders. The fact that this individual can figure out 5 times how to get back into the country, when we know for a fact that ISIS and other terrorist groups are targeting the United States, targeting Washington, and the people here, and a man of this caliber, low caliber, can figure out how to get into America so easily. And obviously the time he spent being detained could not have been significant, that he was able to do this 5 times over a period of time, I think really raises the red flag why we need an urgency in securing America's borders. As I said before, 50% of the people, almost 50%, didn't cross that border. Any state that has an international airport is a border state. And there needs to be an urgency in securing America's borders, and obviously it's not working.
I would also add that the reality is that even though the law in the book says that it's a felony, a federal felony, to re-enter after deportation, getting U.S. attorneys' offices to accept those cases is extraordinarily difficult, and that's true both in border states where they feel the press of business from many other things, including drug trafficking and weapons trafficking, and in major metropolitan areas. And the harsh reality is that some U.S. attorneys' offices have thresholds saying, well, if this is the 3rd time, we'll take it, or if this is the 4th time, we'll take it. But what that means is that the immigration officials are then left catching the fish and throwing it back into the ocean. And it may not be the best thing, but it's better than what happened in San Francisco, where because someone chose to obstruct even that small amount of prevention, it ended up in a murder.
I think it's also...
I'd like to add one point, and the congressman pointed this out. We have not had the will yet to secure that border. Having been down there and seeing it both from the air and on the water, it's going to be a monumental task, no doubt about it. But if we had the will to do it, it could be done. I really believe that. Just in the McAllen sector, which I spent a couple of days, in a 75-mile stretch, there are 36 major crossing areas. And you can actually see for yourself as you're going up and down the river on the boats where the coyotes, the cartel, the gangbangers, the gang members stage their human cargo to bring them across the river. As soon as the boat goes by or as soon as the helicopter flies over and they're out of visual, then across come the illegals. So there's a lot of that. But I really believe this: if we had the will to do it, we could do it between manpower, technology, and finishing portions of the wall down there. So
Jessica and I did an analysis of, what was it, like maybe 5 years of deportations in the recent past. I can't remember the exact years. It was maybe 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14?
Not 14, but up to 13.
Anyway, what we found is that both in the interior and at the border, 1 of every 4 people caught was a prior deport. 1 out of every 4 was rolling through that border.
And what that tells me is I think it's quite clear that the lack of interior enforcement is itself a motivation for people to keep coming back, because they know that if they can get back here, they will be able to live here without any fear of immigration enforcement.
If you can pierce the green line, you're through.
And I think part of that point is something people don't talk about as interacting with this issue is something like employer sanctions. In other words, if it's hard for illegal immigrants to get work, then it's less appealing for them to try. Maybe they'll try 3 times and then give up. I don't know. But the point is, we're not even taking the elementary steps to make re-entering 5 times sort of less appealing and not worth it. And in fact, the suspect in this case told the news, not only did he confess to doing it, he said, yeah, he picked San Francisco because it was a sanctuary jurisdiction. But, you know, part of that appeal is that he was no doubt able to earn a living without any consequences because he was an illegal alien. Any other questions?
I'd like to circle back on your question about people's status, just for a moment. I would like to make a point of saying that the Federal Privacy Act does not cover illegal aliens. The Privacy Act says very specifically that it applies to United States persons, USPers, who are citizens and lawful residents, nobody else. So when DHS or ICE or CBP
Or Social Security?
decline to give you information about an individual because they're illegal, or they say, we can't talk about that for privacy reasons, that's bogus. That is a privacy right created out of thin air. It does not exist in federal law.
And should not be encouraged. Someone's immigration status should not be something that you're allowed to keep a secret and to yourself, like your religion or your favorite color or whatever. But that is the policy now of the federal government to protect this information, even criminal aliens.
Did you have a question? No. Oh, okay.
Hi, Nick Balsi with PJ Media. I wanted to ask you about Donald Trump in particular, because he's really taken this issue into the mainstream. Based on the facts you've presented, is what he's been saying about crime among illegal immigrants accurate? And what do you think about the criticism he's been getting in the media?
This is a politics question, Congressman. So.
You know, maybe it could have been said in a different way. You know, maybe he didn't articulate it in a way that was acceptable to many. But I've been on that same side of the fence that Donald Trump has been on. You know, when I've first came forward with the law I created in Hazleton, I was immediately, media from all around the world literally came to interview me, and many times, especially in print media, when I would talk about illegal immigrants, the first paragraph would have illegal immigrant, and then the second paragraph would leave out the word illegal. And then my message became anti-immigrant, which is the furthest from what I was defending immigrants and wanting them to have a better opportunity in America, to have a better education for their children, a better job, they earn more money. But the article became anti-immigrant. I had to stop using the word illegal immigrant for that reason. I started using the word illegal alien because they simply couldn't leave out the word illegal. So I understood what Donald Trump was saying. I don't believe he intended that every single person that comes in is a rapist and a murderer. However, nobody here can say that some that have crossed the border are not. We know for a fact some of that is true. But however, the media will take many times when you're dealing with this issue and portray it in a way that wasn't the entire intent. So I've experienced many of that. I've been called a racist, a bigot. I've been called every name under the book. My grandson is half Dominican. I take exception when somebody tries to portray me as anti-immigrant. However, it's why many politicians will not deal with this issue, They simply won't go there. And we may see that with many of the presidential candidates. This is a serious issue in this country. It's one of the top issues in the country. We may find presidential candidates reluctant to talk about one of the top issues in the country. And many times it's because the media may portray you as anti-immigrant, which is ludicrous. Is ludicrous. Why do people come to America? They come here for a better opportunity. How is it better for the immigrants that come to this country for a better opportunity to allow millions to come in there and take jobs off them, or depress the wages that they're going to earn, or hurt them in educating their children? It's just ludicrous. However, more times than not, politicians will choose to stay away from this topic because of the names that you'll be called and how you'll be portrayed. If Donald Trump, the silver lining of this whole thing, he brought this issue to the forefront, and Kate Steinle happened to just qualify some of the things that he was saying.
Let me, if I could just add something to what the congressman said. The CIS really is nonpartisan in the sense that both Republicans and Democrats hate us. But the one thing I'd want to say is that shame on the rest of the political class that it took a carnival barker like Donald Trump to get this issue on the front burner. This is something that all of us here and a number of other people have been talking about, researching on, introducing legislation on, et cetera, for years and years and years. People have been killed long before Kate Steinle, as we've suggested, others that haven't even been mentioned here yet. And it took a reality TV star with $9 billion and nothing to lose to get the issue on the front burner. Whatever his merits or demerits, the real shame is that other Republican or Democratic regular politicians haven't met with the victim families before or haven't raised this issue in a consistent way. He's, in a sense, whatever his qualities, his success at this is an indictment of the entire political class. Yes, Marguerite.
Yeah, I believe this is something, if I remember correctly, it was Mr. Cadman said, but he called for a need for litigiousness, in the same sense that the civil rights groups sue people for, violating immigrants' rights as they see it. Are there any groups that exist that do that? Are there cases? Is there much of a precedent for this?
I believe that in one case, I can tell you two cases, but it neither used the statute that I have mentioned. There was a case of the Bologna Family, which I believe was also in San Francisco, and I think they attempted to sue, saying that San Francisco's policies violated the statute that relates to open communications between state and local government on one hand and federal immigration on the other. And the case was dismissed. They couldn't make the case that San Francisco's statute was so clearly in violation of that provision of law, which is 8 U.S.C. 1373. Anyway, the basis for the lawsuit wasn't the same as the one I'm suggesting. The one I'm suggesting is a blunt instrument. You deprive people of their life, their property, and you do it under color of law, you're liable for the consequences. So that was an attempt, and it failed for reasons of statute. I'm also told that the father of the young boy, Jamil Shah, who was, I think, in fact, one of the people that stood on the podium with Trump, he attempted to file a lawsuit in Los Angeles County, and I believe that the poor man couldn't find anyone to assist him, and he filed it pro bono, and it was dismissed probably on procedural grounds. And I find it depressing that the man didn't have the money to file a lawsuit to, rectify the injustice of his son being murdered.
But in short, it's rarely been, there have been very few efforts, if any.
There was another case in Chicago, the McCann family. Dennis McCann was hit by an illegal alien drunk driver with a prior conviction for aggravated felony who was released when Cook County's sheriff was following the Cook County ordinance. There was an ICE detainer on him. Soon after Cook County adopted its sanctuary policy, they released him, and he fled and was never able to face prosecution. He's a fugitive now. The McCann family filed suit under a state statute in Illinois that apparently requires public officials to perform their duties, and it was dismissed by a state judge. Case was brought by Judicial Watch, and their briefs and all the materials are available to the public for others to look at to see the arguments and so on. But so it's.
Congressman, how do you see the transfer from Mr. Trump, who we all agree, I think, has proved to be a Paul Revere, and an Ann Coulter, and you people have presented to me a powerful case. How do you bring that into the political mainstream if there's no candidate going to stand up and bring that to the public's attention? I don't think that, they're calling Trump as a boomlet, and there's a tremendous pressure on the media. And if you look at the whole situation, it's going to be very difficult to make a political transfer of this issue so that it's credible to a broadest number of people. I feel that's going to be a major problem.
I think many of the candidates, not only at the presidential level, I believe at the state level and at the federal level, will realize that the American people have had enough. I really believe this. I just talk about my own experience, and I remember feeling like I was alone. I couldn't get a politician to come near me at the time. It was during the presidential election. None of the presidential candidates, they were in Pennsylvania for 6 weeks. None of them would come near Hazleton. And every day I'd pick up the paper and see that they were very close, and I was wondering why they weren't coming to Hazleton, and I thought maybe it was me. And I realized that it was me. Nobody wanted to come close. And I felt alone. I gotta be honest with you. It was daunting as a small town mayor to have microphones from all around the country and the world in your face, and you're defending yourself. But then the mail started coming, and literally sacks and sacks and sacks of letters and checks. I raised $500,000 to defend ourselves in small denominations, $10, $20 from people around the country. We received donations from every state, including Alaska and Hawaii. I remember getting a letter from a gentleman in western part of the United States. He was retired, a retired veteran, and he said, "Mayor, here's $7. It's all I have. Keep fighting." And another man who was in a nursing home who had been saving quarters and told his daughter where the quarters were to send them to Hazleton. And I realized that I wasn't alone. American people understand the problem of illegal immigration. It's politicians who are afraid to put their name out there. And listen, if I don't get elected again because of that, then so be it. I'll go get another job. But this affected my town. I took an oath of office, and I was going to do something about it. I believe politicians will find that the American people have had it. They've had it with the talking points. They've had it with, when an incident like this happens, everyone steps up and steps forward, but they don't go through with it. And I think Donald Trump is going to be an example of America's looking for leadership.
Could I raise a point to that also? I think what you're going to find also, again, I sit on two major committees of the national sheriffs. In this most recent conference just 2 weeks ago, I've found that sheriffs now are ready to speak up on this issue, to push this issue to Congress, to the Senate. You got 3,087 or some odd sheriffs in this country. That's a lot of clout. That's a lot of votes. That's a lot of horsepower. And I can tell you from my experiences as sheriff in Frederick County, I've been very much supported in this effort. Have gotten some big numbers, not just because of that, but by and large, the citizens are tired of it. I can tell you the Western Coalition sheriffs are frustrated. They're tired of it. The border county sheriffs are tired of it. People want something done, and I agree with the congressman. There's going to be a surge, a push from sheriffs across this country through their citizens, and somebody is going to have to listen.
The real danger, I think, is that everyone realizes how salient this issue now, and what I'm worried about is that there are some in Congress who support the sanctuaries through their actions, who will come up with a pretend solution to this problem and say something to the effect of, for example, oh, we all agree ISIS detainers must always be honored for felons or for convicted criminals or for some narrow subset of the population. And experience tells us this is just not enough. All of them need to be honored, or no federal funding of certain types. Because we cannot predict who the next murderer is. If ICE is seeking to deport someone, state and local jurisdictions must not obstruct ICE performing its mission in a legitimate fashion, period.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah, quickly, we want to respect people's time. We're going to wrap it up.
Secretary Johnson yesterday was saying, in effect, the solution to the problem is the new PEP program, which Sheriff Jenkins addressed, but there's been virtually no analysis of the difference between PEP and secure communities that the PEP was supposed to replace, that analyzes why PEP is not a solution to that problem. And I wonder if any of you can address that.
That's a whole other panel, but I mean, let's, we can't, I don't want to go.
We have some, Dan has written some things that are on our website, so.
I would substitute the acronym PEP for DUD myself. I am thoroughly unimpressed. He has raised the standard so incredibly high that, as the sheriff has very wisely commented, DHS is going to be in the position of growing recidivists. When you allow people who again and again flout the law and learn from it that what they get is a free pass and a walk out of jail because everyone wants to turn a blind eye to it, what message does that send to them about being a law-abiding person? It doesn't send the right message. And in our everything has to be black and everything has to be white world, we often forget that quite frequently the victims of these people are other people in the immigrant community. They want them excised from their midst just as surely as everyone else.
Let's, we want to wrap it up there and thank all of the participants. I need to respect people's time. Thank you. Thank you, Congressman. And several of the panelists will be available to be accosted afterwards, I think. So thanks for coming, and this will be on our website, the video of it, at some point probably next week, and hope to see you at a future event. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Congressman. You're welcome. Glad you were able to stay. Thanks.